you're too potentially focused on 3.4, 3.4. That's all they're going to see.
That's exactly what I'm
They
focused on.
don't. They see it all. Ask Dr. Gray pre-med Q&A brought to you by Blueprint MCAT. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me on, Dr. Gray.
Yeah, you're welcome. What can I help you with?
First, I'll just give a kind of little background about myself. So, like many others, I struggle with worrying about my GPA and whatnot. So my freshman year, just like 4 or 5 days after moving to college, my mom and dad's house flooded during Harvey. So in the following months, I was driving back and forth about 2.5 hours every other day to help my dad with redoing the house and stuff, because he was doing it all on his own. All my other siblings, I have 3 other siblings, and they're all younger, so they're all in high school and middle school. And so I was doing that, and this completely tanked my GPA. And I'm not blaming that on driving back and forth. I take complete responsibility for that. So then my second semester, I found out that my girlfriend's pregnant. So I get a full-time job and all that. And then I moved back closer to home. I go to the university at home. And ever since we moved back down here, I've kind of just focused on school. So my last 80 hours, I've had a 4.0. And I'm wondering, really, should I talk about the stuff that, like the flooding, the getting a full-time job, my wife getting pregnant. Well, wife now, it was my girlfriend at the time. And because I don't want it to sound like an excuse, because that when I look at the whole picture, it's because of my maturity levels. I wasn't focused. I went into college thinking, it's going to be just like high school, the studying wise, and that was a complete wrong assumption. So I'm wondering, how do I keep my last 80 hours of a 4.0 from being overlooked if I don't speak about?
Yeah. What's your GPA with everything
overall?
Yeah,
it's going to be a 3.41.
Okay, so not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I don't think there is anything you do. You have a 4.0 over 80 credit hours. That's phenomenal. And your struggles seem like it's mostly first year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And guess who struggles first year? Lots of students, no matter what the reason. So can you include something in a personal statement as a quick little disclaimer, 1 or 2 sentences, however you can fit it? Maybe. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. I wouldn't make it a full paragraph. I wouldn't focus on it a ton. A lot of schools who care about poor grades or any sort of academic discrepancy, and they're looking for explanations, a lot of schools will ask that in secondary essays. And so you could potentially look at the schools you're applying to and just look and go, do these schools care about academic discrepancies? Are they asking about it in secondary essays? And if they are, great. Maybe the majority of schools are asking about it. I'm not going to focus on it in my personal statement or in my primary application. I'll just talk about it in the secondary essays. So I don't think you can go wrong either way, but you have the academic track record of 80 credit hours at a 4.0 that will squash any concerns, and your GPA is still good, right? It's 3.4 is good. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it's not 2.9.
Yes, sir. Okay. And then, so another thing, because I've been told multiple things, and whenever I was making those bad grades, this compared to what I've gone through now, when we moved back down here, we got married, then our house flooded like 3 months after moving down here. And my wife got pregnant. We lost that baby, and then we have a second one now. But so during this time, we also found out my wife had BRCA 1 and 2, and she had to have surgery. And so that's another reason why I was asking, should I even talk about that? Because I've maintained those grades through what seems like way worse times than me just having to drive my freshman year. So okay, so just don't, and then
Again, so you're looking. I'll clarify some conversation here.
yes, sir.
You're looking for avenues, whether good or bad, to inject narrative somewhere. And this is a very common problem that students have with applications because students are constantly trying to inject narrative. I need to tell you, you have to know this, you have to know this. They don't have to know anything.
Okay.
Right? The primary application is structured the way it is for whatever reasons, but it is what it is. You need a personal statement, and you need up to 15 activities with descriptions. Now, assuming potentially you apply to TMDSAS, it sounds like you're a Texas boy, then you will need to have and this is a good point, you have the optional essay and required essay as part of TMDSAS. Now, I forget off the top of my head what those prompts are, but one of them is the required essay, I believe, is basically like, what are you going to bring to our class, right? Education is important and community, whatever. What are you going to bring to the class? That's kind of their diversity essay built into the primary application. The optional essay is basically, is there anything else you want us to know? And that potentially, for TMDSAS specifically, is the perfect opportunity to talk about all of the obstacles and stuff that you've overcome, things that you've been through, context around bad grades, good grades, etc. All right, but let's ignore TMDSAS for a second, because for you, potentially that works well. For AMCAS students, people who are applying only to AMCAS or a COMIS, because their structures are very similar in terms of just having a personal statement and activities, and then a COMIS has COVID-19 essay built into the primary as well. When you try to force in a narrative, your agenda, I call it, you're kind of skewing off the course, right? It's the baseball analogy of you're running outside of the baseline, right, and you're out, right? It just doesn't work well because the reviewers are expecting something. They're expecting a personal statement. Standard ones, I think, are good personal statements are, why do you want to be a doctor? Some people write about why they think they're going to be a great doctor or whatever, but they're expecting the standard personal statement. And when you go in with your agenda, with the narrative that you want to push, and they don't read what they want to read, then they're turned off. Like, why am I reading this? Why are you giving me this sob story, whatever it is, in your personal statement? That's not what this is for. So be careful with those agendas. That's why schools ask secondary questions in their essay prompts for secondary essays applications. So you have schools that will gather the admissions committee and go, what questions do we want to know from each of our potential students? And here are the questions. Again, anything outside of that, anything outside of answering those questions specifically, you're trying to force a narrative, right? Trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. You don't need to do it. Okay, so just be careful. That's why in my personal statement book, I talk about potential red flags and writing about them, but it shouldn't overpower a personal statement. If you want to write about it, it should be very brief, very short, just a quick little head nod. Okay?
Yeah, that's what I'll stick with. I guess I've just been so focused on, oh, they've got to hear this, they have to hear this, or they're just going to think, oh, he's not a good student. But now,
but you are a good student. You have 80 credits at a 4.0, right? You're too potentially focused on 3.4, 3.4. That's all they're going to see.
That's exactly what I'm
focused on. They see it all. They see that 80 credits at a 4.0, and that will blow their mind.
And then talking about the TMDSAS and all that stuff. So that brings us to another question I had. So, because I know Texas, they kind of favor their own students, or their own residents. Say
by law, yeah, they have to accept up to only 10% of out-of-state students.
So, is it worth, in your opinion, is it worth even applying to out-of-state as a Texas resident?
Because it depends on what you're defining as worth.
I mean, because I don't know. I've been told, from different advisors and stuff, just stay in Texas, stay in Texas, stay in Texas. But I mean, I'm willing to move, wherever. And thank God my wife is too, or
Yeah.
else this wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to throw away all that money.
Yeah, and I think the answer is the same for everyone, is you need to apply where you want to apply.
Yeah.
Building a school list is hard. Too many students are just like, click, 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 click. Okay, I'm done. You need to, with your wife together, how old's your child?
We have a 3-year-old and then we have a 3-month-old.
Okay, so they won't be participating in this conversation. They'll just go wherever they want to go or wherever you take them. So you and your wife need to sit down and have conversations. Where can we see ourselves living for at least 4 years? Is it Texas? Is it Arkansas, Louisiana, right? New Mexico, Oklahoma, or Pacific Northwest or Northeast? Right? Where do you want to be as a family together for at least 4 years, right? And remember, it's temporary. Medical school is just 4 years, and then you can apply to residencies where you want to go. So the question comes down to, where do you want to be? Not, let me try to gamify this system and go, oh, I'm a Texas resident, therefore I should only apply to Texas schools because it's a waste of money to apply elsewhere. No, it's not a waste of money if you truly want to go to those other schools. Now, can you get into those other schools? There's a lot of factors. Are they public out-of-state schools? Then maybe not, right? Because a lot of public schools, just like Texas schools, typically not as strict as Texas schools, a lot of public schools want their own state residents. There are instances where, as a Texas resident, a school may look at you and go, wow, you're a really good applicant, but I see you're from Texas. You're probably going to get into Texas somewhere because you are a good applicant, so we're not going to bother interviewing you. They may like you, but they see that you're a Texas resident. You'll want to stay in Texas because everyone in Texas wants to stay in Texas, whatever, right? So that is a thing. It's called yield protection.
Okay.
But should that dictate the game that you play? No. You should be aware of it and understand that it may hinder your chances of getting into out-of-state schools, but it shouldn't dictate what you do.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And I mean, because I know we do plan to, apply everywhere in Texas, because we live about 30 minutes away from UTMB. So we're just right down the road from that, right down the road from Houston, and then we have family up. We've got family everywhere in Texas. So
yeah,
we'll be applying everywhere.
Okay,
but yes, sir. Those were my pretty much my questions right there.
Well,
yes,
good
sir.
luck to you, and
thank you so much.
As you prepare for the MCAT, Blueprint MCAT, go get a free account if you haven't already. Use their study planner tool, their flashcards, all of that good stuff to help you along the journey. What are you shooting for MCAT wise? Do you know?
So I've been in a prep class with TPR, and so far I've only taken 2 exams. I made a 497 or 496 on my first practice MCAT, and then 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I made a 501.
Great.
So, and I haven't taken another one since, and it's been about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. But I take it May 19th. I've just been trying to save them, and which is I've heard not to do, but that's what I'm doing.
Don't save them. Yeah, you should be taking tests once a week from here on out. So if you have those exams, great. Go get a free Blueprint one. But
yes,
without a doubt, if you're taking it May 19th, we're recording this on April 1st, April Fool's, like you should be using those 5 AAMC exams. And so you're pretty close to starting those AAMC exams. So questions is how you improve on the MCAT.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so focus on that. Stop reading books and start taking full lengths and doing QBank stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck.
Thanks for having me on.